People Management Association of the Philippines. People Management Association of the Philippines.
Okay, good afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. I would like to welcome you in the name of People Management Association of the Philippines. This is a PMAP free webinar. It is free because you don't have to pay for anything, but certainly we assure you and guarantee you that the discussions today, you will have a lot of things to pick up and a lot of things to learn from and give you a richer insight of what's going on in the country. Our topic for today, food for thought, food security for every Filipino in the time of COVID-19. Of course, food is food. It will always be relevant, always important, always timely, but especially under these circumstances. And now that I know that I'm thinking about talking about food for the afternoon, I'm already hungry. But we will hold on to that hunger for a while and start our webinar for the afternoon. And welcome. Thank you for joining us. And folks, the topic actually arose from a lot of talks about pandemic, COVID-19, ECQ, a lot of things that are not usual. These are different times, that are unusual times, and they call for unusual actions, especially in the realm of food security. Studies have shown that policies and concrete support define the game, especially in agricultural development, and in particular, providing significant investments in irrigation, agriculture infrastructure, providing farmers access to credit and insurance to their crops, funding for research and development, innovative technologies, and policies for climate change are just among some of the variables that spur the growth or the development of the agricultural sector. As we navigate with the new normal after this ECQ, this quarantine period, we are now going to go into the new normal, even in the field of agriculture. How will the pandemic affect food security? How will it affect supply chain? How will it affect agricultural livelihoods and businesses? As we are physically distant today, ladies and gentlemen, as we all, due to the imposed enhanced quarantine, we are also seeing each other in the digital world, and we're still together. That's great. On that note, in case of technical difficulties, please bear with us. That's not our fault, but I'm sure we can pull this through just the same. My name is Barbie Atienza. I'm a past PMAP president, or the People Management Association of the Philippines, and I also head both the External Affairs and Human Resource Management here at the Manila Bulletin, the nation's leading newspaper. Nag-plug pa ako, ha? And I will be your moderator for today's webinar. And the title is Food for Thought, Food Security for Every Filipino in the time of COVID-19. And this is, of course, brought to you and hosted by the People Management Association of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, just in case you didn't know, for your information, we've got the growing population or growing community of webinar participants and registrants since we started all these webinars or seminars on digital. For the past weeks, just for the record, we had a series of webinars with a total of 18,500 Zoom registrants. And we have a weekly reach of about 536,000 people and about 147,000 on YouTube Live whenever we go streaming. And since obviously many have been signing up and still signed up for this particular webinar, we expect a lot of participants today. Zoom may not be able to accommodate everybody, or we can only accommodate about 500 participants. I'm sure we'll go way over that. Nevertheless, you don't have to miss it because you can still watch us at the PMAP's Facebook. If you cannot access Zoom link, please go to the PMAP Facebook. You just have to look for People Management Association of the Philippines, and we're right there. And in case you have questions, this has to be interactive. You may send it to us using the chat box or the comment box at the Facebook where we are now streaming live. Kindly note that the presentation materials are one of the perks of being a PMAP member. For PMAP members exclusively who wish to have a copy of the slides, and for non-members who wish to be a member of the PMAP, kindly send us an email. So if you want a copy of the slides, come and join us at PMAP, be a member. You can email us to RHEA, that's RHEA .paragsa @pmap.org.ph. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, what we will do is we will have, of course, some very much sought after resource speakers with the subject matter that we have on hand. And we're really fortunate, very lucky to have them with us. To join me in this PMAP webinar session, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to introduce first our speakers. First, he is a Filipino horticulturist and a public servant who is the 45th Secretary of Agriculture of the Philippines. He also served as an executive director of then PICARD from 1994 to 1998, but now the agency is called the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic and Natural Resources Research and Development that is based in Los Baños, Laguna. And so, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming, PMAP, please welcome the Honorable Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary William Dar. Magandang hapon po. Good afternoon, Mr. Secretary.
Magandang hapon. Yeah.
There you go.
Magandang hapon po, Mr. Atienza, and magandang hapon po sa mga leaders ng People Management Association of the Philippines. And thank you to Sarah Niquas and Jet Nebres for this invitation and discuss this topic of ensuring food security for every Filipino amid COVID-19 and beyond. So maraming salamat at tamang-tama itong topic na ito. We are really elevating our game so that during this pandemic ay lahat po ng Pilipino ay mayroon sapat na pagkain.
Yun. Tsak po yun. Siguro po, there are a lot of important things in life, pero nothing can be as important as food and food security. And thank you very much, Secretary Dar, for giving us your time. Alam ko, busy-busy kayo sa mga panahon na ito.
Salamat po. And let me start. Can I continue now?
Sadali na po. Papakilala po natin, Mr. Secretary, isa pa natin kasama sa webinar na to. Joining us is the Officer in Charge Director of Resource-Based Industry Service of the Board of Investments from the Department of Trade and Industry. Ating po kasama, Director Raquel Echague. Magandang hapon po, Director Rax.
Magandang hapon po, PP Barbie. Magandang hapon, Secretary Dar. Magandang hapon po sa lahat.
Yan. Maraming salamat din po, Director Raquel, for joining us and honoring us with your presence in this webinar. What we will do, ladies and gentlemen, is we will have the good Secretary Dar, make his presentation about the status and the information that he will share with us to ensure food security for every Filipino under the COVID-19 pandemic. And then this will be backed up also by a presentation by Director Raquel Echague from the standpoint of the Department of Trade Industry on how it has been supporting, or how the government is supporting, our drive towards food security. Well, without much further ado, I'm sure everybody's eager to listen to him. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now please first present our first guest speaker, the Honorable Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary William Dar.
Okay, thanks again, Mr. Atienza, and to all those in this tele or web seminar, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. So I will be discussing with you the topic ensuring food security for every Filipino amid COVID-19 and beyond. And let me start by highlighting this dictum, which I initially used during my initial presentation with the IATF when we presented the Food Resiliency Action Plan of Government during pandemic COVID-19. And I said the threat of hunger is as real as the threat of COVID-19. So marami pong mga ibig sabihin na kung tayo ay healthy at nutritious po yung pagkain natin, sapat na pagkain, ay pwede natin labanan, mas pwede natin labanan ang pandemic na COVID-19. And I would like to just briefly give you, as a result of this pandemic, what are the impacts globally in the sector of agriculture. So ito po ay hindi lang nangyari dito sa Pilipinas, ay talagang nangyari sa iba't ibang countries dito sa mundo. Disruption in food supply, again with all the problems attendant to logistical challenges within supply chains, particularly cross-border and domestic restrictions of movement. And if I have to mention one major concern that we have had in the Philippines the last 2 months is the domestic restrictions of movement. The second one is labor shortages because of lockdowns, because of border closures. You can imagine, people not going to work. Of course, they are not allowed to work. There were industries, and even in the countryside, to some extent, farming and or fishing have been affected. So we have this as a major challenge. Then reduction in job quality in the sector and job destruction, especially at the base of the supply chain. You can really see this likewise in the Philippines. Food wastage due to restrictions on movement. Ito marami nangyari itong last 2 months. May mga vegetables galing sa far-flung Benguet, and because of the restrictions of movement, uneven implementation of the policies initiated by ITF. So hindi nakarating po sa merkado itong mga vegetables na ito. So it's really a loss to the farmers, a loss to the consuming public, of course. Livelihoods have been badly affected in many ways in most of the developing countries. And as a result of all of this distortion of food value chain, restricted movements, then you have price spikes and increased price volatility. Now, so in general, these are again to highlight the global challenges in the agriculture sector during this pandemic. So food production is interrupted because of the interruption of input supplies and credit, scarcity of casual wage labor, and of course, when you have crops in the field without your, going to monitor and see what agricultural practices must be, done, then you have decrease in crop yields. Likewise, in food trade, many early days of the pandemic, countries were closing their borders and imposing even restrictions of their exports. And so those countries that are importing commodities have been badly affected. Of course, food demand contracted because restaurants closed and many other establishments that have been utilizing the raw products from the agriculture sector, of course, including that in the manufacturing sector, they have been to some extent affected because, again, of the labor supply that was not there. On domestic food markets, again, they have suffered because, again, of interruption of domestic trade. And in general, food environment there is recognition of the key role of the state in organizing health and health interventions. Then consumer behavior, because of changing food habits, reinforcing to support the transition towards healthier and more sustainable diet. So ito yung one challenge that have now become one of the norms during this period of the new normal. So just to remind ourselves again that these were the challenges and up to now are still challenges in the domestic front, particularly for the sector, agriculture sector. The first one is input production and processing. While in general we got approval from ITF early days, my skeletal force doing, production and processing. Because of that number, there have been decreased in terms of the outputs of production and the outputs of processing. The processors don't receive timely and adequate input from the countryside. The second part is on input and produce transport. Again, transport channels slowed down due to screenings, checkpoints. The checkpoints had become choke points, and most of the transport workers stayed at home. And all about the farms, again, we have to contend about the limited labor and delay of in inputs that will affect the production cycle. But eventually it is out, and in spite of ECQ for Luzon, we were able to open up to optimum domestic food production in the country. Of course, marketing and trade, this is very visible in terms of its effect. With all this physical distancing, social distancing that we have to have, markets have shut down. Alternative ways of trading was enunciated, and imports slowed down because of congestions and lockdowns in some ports and in some countries. So moving forward, as a result of now the first quarter storm, I would call it, because we have the Taal volcano, the convergence of various big challenges, impact of climate change. Then in March came the lockdown in regard to COVID-19 pandemic. So what was the result? The GDP the gross domestic product in the country have been affected, negative 0.2%. And by sector, this is the effect. Agriculture contracted minus 0.4%. Industry contracted 3%, negative 3%. And services had a growth of positive 1.4%. So in average, the economy contracted, did not grow. Now, we also have here the data on inflation for the whole country for the month of April. The average inflation rate for April is 2.2%. And if we have to look at the contribution of food in terms of inflation, that is 3.4%. And these are contributed by three commodities: fruits, vegetables, and fish. So during this pandemic, during the restricted movements to some degree of these food supplies, you had limited supplies in the market and the price increases were there. So again, it is again time to continue to enhance our food production activities and seeing to it that movements and logistics are there in any event of any pandemic coming or any big challenges coming. What will always be necessary, let me again highlight the point, is food, the availability of food, the affordability of food, and of course, food that are nutritious and safe. Now, I would like to give an outlook here between supply and demand for various basic commodities in agriculture. For rice, which is always an important commodity, even a political commodity. If you see this days to last by end of 2020, we have 94 days, and the demand is 14,668 metric tons vis-a-vis supply, and the supply of 17,994,000 metric tons would be coming from three sources. One, the inventory of last year for being moved forward, the domestic production, and of course, additionally, we have been able to get additional budget from government to raise the level of rice sufficiency from 87% today, and hoping by the end of the year we'll have a rice sufficiency level of 93-94% as well. So we always said mayroon tayong sapat na pagkain. We have to accept also that there are some provinces that are not producing enough of the rice requirement, and that other provinces nearby are the sources of their deficiencies. So there are interprovincial, interregional trade that is happening. But overall, yes, while the demand is there, as I've said, the rice sufficiency level is only estimated to be 93%. So the aspect of importing part of our total requirement will always be there. So the surplus of 3 million, let me highlight, will last us for 94 days. For corn, there is more than enough inventory, and this is one commodity that we are almost 100%. This is corn in relation to livestock. And by the end of this year, you have a good inventory that will last another 234 days. Fisheries, marginal surplus of 2 days. And this is one area that we need to up our game in terms of, again, building up the outcomes or outputs of aquaculture, of municipal fishing, and open seas fishing. We need to continue to invest in the fisheries and building up the various ecosystems, thereby sustainably having fish catch. But we have to observe closed season, particularly November towards February, and that's where for some of those items like small pelagic fishes, we need to bring from other countries. Pork, because of the African swine fever, we are challenged by that. And the inventory looks like, or the outlook looks like 1 month negative. But starting this June, we are getting additional resources from government to restart again and invest in the hog industry in areas where ASF has not visited those provinces. Those are the catch-up areas where we can mitigate this negative outlook for the pork. But if at all this outlook is there, I would like to assure the public that we have enough chicken as a protein source. There is so much inventory today, and up until the end of the year, 233 days to last. Vegetables, more or less comfortable, surplus, good for 88 days. But we are upping the game. We have urban agriculture, we have backyard gardening. We are investing in areas where we needed more of these commodities that are needed by all of us. Now, onion, we have, as you are all aware, we are not able to produce 100%. The same is true much more for garlic. So maybe onion, we have the potential to elevate our game and even produce 100%. But for garlic, we are only producing today about 6-7% of our total requirement. So it's a challenge. So much of the garlic that we do need are coming from other countries. Next slide. So in the last 2 months, or so, by April, mid of April, we started brainstorming what would be the major development framework with which to survive, reboot, and grow Philippine agriculture. So this is an updated framework from the start. I was here starting August of 2019. This is now my ninth month in the work, and so I am always, guided by a development framework with which to anchor the plans, programs, and projects of the department. What have been improved would be the vision. We added the word resilient there. Not just being food secure, but elevating our resiliency in many respects, so that we are able to cope up or adapt with this new economy, the new normal. Now, for us to enhance our socioeconomic recovery and resiliency, there are 3 stages to consider. We are now presently at the survival stage, and seeing to it that during the survival stage that we have still enough food, of course, seeing to it that the food supplies are made available in the populated areas. And we are now also starting to plan for the second stage, which is the rebooting of Philippine agriculture and fisheries. And after that rebooting, will continuously go to the next stage of growing the sector. And to survive, reboot, and eventually grow, you have to consider these major objectives of having to have enough production, and that you have to have enough available food for every Filipino. And that such food must be accessible and affordable, and can be, be made available in the market where prices are reasonably acceptable. And for all times also, food safety must be a cross-cutting objective to see to it that we always have safe food and safe and nutritious food. Now, what are the strategies that continue to help us? When I started 8 months ago, mayroon tayong tinatawag na 8 paradigms na kailangan to regrow the country, the sector, and they're more relevant than ever. And the key strategies are farm consolidation, modernization, rural industrialization, export promotion, and infrastructure development. And for all these things to happen, we need enablers like budget and investments. All these years, let me remind ourselves that agriculture have been under budgeted, underfunded, and underinvested. So I was pointing out with the House of Representatives today, because we are now discussing with them a survival program plus a stimulus program for agriculture. We said this is now the time to have a good appreciation of what must be the programs and the new policy directions with which we can now also resource this properly. So legislative support is key. We need to institutionalize the new policy paradigms and our orientations and sustain the budgetary support. And of course, we need roadmap development every step of the way. So down here would be the key results areas. I need not go through them again. It's worth mentioning that it's all related to systems, to products, to people, to institutions, and the whole environment. So these are the three stages for this strategy: survival stage, rebooting stage, and in the rebooting stage we have this plant paradigm now, and which is becoming a very the general public, every Filipino understands the need for producing more food for everyone, and eventually have this stage of growing the sector. Now, under survival, we have had a good number of interventions during the last 2 months. Again, for the very purpose of having to see to it that food is available, acceptable, affordable, and price stable. So food pass, Kadiwa, refocus programs and projects, urban agriculture, the financial subsidy for rice farmers, and the Bantay Presyo Task Force working in terms of stabilizing prices in coordination with local price coordinating councils. Now, the next stage is the rebooting stage, and we are starting from this whole paradigm of plant. We are requesting the House of Representatives and eventually the Senate a 66 billion additional budget to have an impactful outcomes of the new expanded programs and projects of the Department of Agriculture. And to grow, we continue to do farm consolidation and clustering. Economies of scale is necessary if you have to invite the private sector much more, and that's the orientation we would like to take, that we can partner. We have the big business partnering with the farmers cooperatives and or associations to do enterprises anchored on value chain system. Of course, financing is made available, Land Bank, DBP, and even we have ACPC for noble approaches in financing. We have now more than enough of these credit facilities available for agriculture and agribusiness. So we are building our capacity in terms of this production marketing link, which has been very, very weak. And if you look at the period during these last 2 months, this is one area really that we have to have a better handle so that we know where the commodities are being produced and when would be the expected volume for such commodities to have, and bringing them, catalyzing the movement, the marketing of these products to the metro areas like Metro Manila. And we are also looking at wider availability of post-harvest facilities, including processing facilities, So value adding is necessary now if we want to have a wider source of income opportunity for farmers, and much more when they are doing collectively through cooperatives and or associations or in partnership with big business. So ito na yung mga new normal activities. Producers resume normal farming activities but would need start their livelihoods. There will be health protocols that we have to observe. Always we see to it that there is unimpeded, unhampered transport and logistics system. We need to elevate our game here, and all these additional normal activities like improve producer-consumer linkages, increase availability of safe, nutritious, fortified, well-packaged agri-food products, and again, to highlight the importance of research for development for most of the basic commodities, and having to, every step of the way, using technology to increase productivity and income of the farmers and fishers. So we must instill a mindset of survival, of rebooting, of growing the sector of agriculture. Let's plant, plant, plant. Thank you. Together, we act, win, and heal as one. Mabuhay po kayong lahat.
There you go. Again, would like to thank the good secretary, Secretary William Dar, and I must say myself that he's one of the good news that we had having him back. Welcome back to government service, Mr. Secretary. And of course, ang isa po siguro, there will be questions to be entertained later on in this webinar. But singitan ko na muna, Mr. Secretary, now in the light of this pandemic, which was not expected by anybody, not you. You've rejoined the government 9 months ago. And then suddenly there was this COVID-19 pandemic. Alam na natin yung ibang problema nyo, under budget, lack of support, lack of appreciation, etc., etc. Pero what was the biggest adjustment? What was the biggest factor that kicked in when this pandemic was declared? Was there any dramatic things that you had to adjust in the department?
Well, you need to mobilize everyone towards that objective of building food resiliency in this country. So by the end of the first week of the ECQ for Luzon, we were able to harness the power of the unity, the team that we have here in the department. A new culture is beginning to spring up, and everyone doing their job, everyone contributing their ideas, and so I was really happy to see this new culture and the attitude to adapt to this pandemic environment. So everything was there flowing, and you have just to provide the leadership, and everyone will follow.
Well, okay. Sabi nga, it's a very challenging time, pero sabi nila, in every challenge there's an opportunity. One of the opportunities that we have is that things have changed. We're not just thinking out of the box. We've thrown the box altogether away, and we can now start anew. And that's what I guess what's happening in the department now.
Let me mention one more thing, Mr. Atienza. Kanina lang.
Barbie po.
Barbie, before this meeting, this teleconferencing with you guys, nag-meeting din kami with House of Representatives, and I said, all this time, napabayaan ang sektor ng agrikultura. So we need to have a new mindset that maybe to reboot the sector, then let's have the new framework properly internalized, understood, and resource this so that we will not be caught flat-footed next time around. So open naman po ang Kongreso.
Very good, very good. Siguro ganun talaga mindset ngayon dahil if we keep on doing the same things we've been doing in the past and expect new results, that would be foolish. Mr. Secretary, please join us for the rest of the webinar. There will be a lot of questions have already been pouring in, pero pakinggan muna po natin ang punto de vista, ang perspective naman ng Department of Trade and Industry. Ang kasama po natin this afternoon is the OIC Director of Resource-Based Industries Service ng Board of Investments ng DTI. Ang ating pong kaibigan, si Director Raquel Echague. Director Raquel.
Maraming salamat, PP Barbie. Good afternoon, Secretary. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'll share na yung aking presentation. Sorry, nawawala yung aking presentation.
Okay, Jet, are we ready?
Yeah.
Yung ating tech team, are we ready with the presentation,
I sent
Director
one,
Raquel? Oh, nandiyan, nakita ko kanina. Kamusta naman kayo sa inyong departamento, Director Raquel?
Okay naman po. We are working from home.
Oh, that's good. Stay
Okay.
safe, stay safe. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah. So, my topic for today is the DTI's role in securing food for every Filipino in the time of COVID-19. So we are tasked actually to get inventory weekly of 5 major commodities for food. Like ito yung laging binibili at hinahanap ng mga consumer in times of COVID. We have inventory of 5 major food products, which are the noodles, instant noodles. We have the powdered milk. Hindi kasama rito yung mga infant formula. Ito lang yung mga powdered milk na for regular drinking. And we have also inventoried coffee, the instant coffee, and the sachets, yung 3-in-1 mix, and the canned tuna and sardines, including also canned meat. So next po. So my presentation has 2 parts. One, I'll present the supply of major food commodities, which I mentioned earlier, and the issues being encountered by the food manufacturers during the enhanced community quarantine, and what did DTI do or intervene with the programs. Also, we have the DTI interventions in my presentation. So the next slide will show now the part 1, or the supply of the major food commodities. This inventory or supply situation covers the week of May 4 to May 11. Actually, we started doing the inventory since April 7. So weekly, we report it to the task force or the task group on food security, headed by the DA secretary. And we do it continuously. So let's go to the instant noodle situation for the next slide. Sorry, this is now just an overview, just to show you how many days or the supply cover for these 5 major food products. These are given by the food manufacturers, by the major food manufacturers, because not all of the manufacturers today are open and operating due to limited resources, especially people and the movement of people. So we have some major companies producing these products right now. For instant noodles, these are in pouches. They stop temporarily producing those in cups kasi mahal daw imported ang mga cups. So these are not available. So in pouches lang, the ones that we usually see sa mga relief goods and the groceries. We have a supply cover on the average of up to 3 days for the instant noodles in pouches. For instant coffee, that includes 3-in-1 mix, we have about 15 days supply cover. For powdered milk, 13 days. For canned tuna and sardines, about 28 days. and for canned meat, about 9 days. So specific to instant noodles for the next slide. Okay. We have inventory 3 major manufacturers. Their plants are located in Pampanga, Laguna, Cavite, National Capital Region, Cebu, Davao, and Cagayan de Oro. So there are now, some of them are operating at 75, and some are operating full, 100%. And the inventory level is about on the average 3 days. And these products are being distributed nationwide. And based on the demand, we have for this instant noodle a demand of around 318 million pouches a month. These are based on industry estimates. And our current supply, including imports, is at 356.72 million pouches. So may sobra tayo na some million pouches, around 38 million pouches for the month of instant noodles. Of course, when we move towards or transition, because right now we are still under enhanced community quarantine, where many activities are not allowed to operate. So when some of the areas would move towards the general community quarantine, and then there will be many manufacturers that will be allowed to operate. For the next slide, for instant coffee and including 3-in-1 mix, we have inventory 3 major manufacturers. They are located in Pampanga, Laguna, Bulacan, and Cagayan de Oro. So same with the instant noodles, they operate at around 75% to 100%, and the inventory level is around 15 days on the average. And these products are distributed also nationwide. For coffee, we have a total demand based on industry estimates of around 20,152 metric tons a month. And currently, they're supplying around 21,283 metric tons a month. It also includes, the supply includes some imported coffee products. So basically, we have a surplus also for instant coffee and 3-in-1 mix. For the next product, for the powdered milk, we have 2 major manufacturers. Their plants are located in Laguna and Bulacan, around 95 to 100% capacity utilization right now. Actually, for food, we allow as much as possible higher capacity utilization just to ensure that there will be supply in the supermarkets of these processed food products. And they are being distributed also nationwide. We have a total demand for powdered milk, not including the infant formula, of around 10,385 metric tons a month. And there's a supply for these 2 manufacturers, including imported powdered milk, of 10,468 metric tons a month. So we have also a surplus of less than 100 metric tons a month for this product. For the next product, we have canned sardines and tuna. We have 6 major manufacturers located, mostly of them are located, of course, in Zamboanga, where fish are available sufficiently. And we have also a plant in the National Capital Region and also in General Santos City. So they're operating at around 50 to 100% capacity, and the inventory level is around 28 days on the average. This product is also distributed nationwide. We have a total estimated demand of around 1.015 million cases a month. One case would would cover 100 tin cans of sardines, and the total estimated supply is 1.55 million cases per month. So we have a surplus also for this product for canned sardines and tuna. For the next processed product is canned meat. We have right now two major manufacturers located in Laguna and Batangas, and the companies are operating at around 85 to 100% capacity utilization, and they have both in an inventory of 9 days on the average, and these are being distributed also nationwide. The total demand for this product is around 1.17 million cases a month, with a total estimated supply of 1.3 million cases a month. So we have a surplus for this product also. So basically, we have enough supply of these products when you go to the supermarkets and the market. For the next, we have interviewed these manufacturers of the issues they have encountered or they have experienced during this enhanced community quarantine. In terms of the workers, the production workers, of course, they cannot prevent the workers to be absent because some of them would fear of being infected with the virus. And also there's a restricted movement of workers. They need to get IDs, rapid passes, so they can go to work. And of course, we do not allow at first 100% capacity, 100% operations or full capacity operations for these companies. Gradually, we did allow, particularly because these are basic essential products for the people. Now, of course, with the new normal, there is an incremental allowance, of course, to ensure attendance and overall health and motivation of these employees. They need to provide, the employers need to provide shuttle buses, food during the operations in the plant. Of course, vitamins also. Not included here are the PPEs, the face masks, the alcohol that they need to provide for their workers. These costs are all passed on to the manufacturers. Of course, the manufacturers could not pass it on to the consumers because of the price freeze being implemented right now. There's also a need to disinfect the plant areas and also the truck that brings the food or delivers the food to the consumers. And there will be a requirement for a rapid testing for the employees, and it is estimated to cost around 950 per head or per worker. So this will be a cost also added to the manufacturer. And shipping lines also are facing drop in volumes worldwide, and there's also a high fixed cost for shipping despite the lower fuel cost. In terms of the logistics issues, weekly there are issues that are being resolved based on the government intervention. This is an all government intervention, not only one department or one government agency that works towards resolving these issues. This is a collaboration between all government agencies, especially the DILG and the PNP in terms of checking at the checkpoints. The logistics issues is still here. Weekly, we receive these issues still from the manufacturers. There's a high international shipping cost that includes also charges on port congestion, detention, and demurrage. And of course, there's a delay in delivery of goods because there are road restrictions due to checkpoints, and there is lean manpower in port areas because of the being implemented restriction in the movement of people. In terms of policies, there should be a connection or coordination between policies from the local level and the national level. So sometimes there are misinterpretations, or there's no clarification on the implementation of the regulations at the checkpoints. When we had this issuance of the IATF-IDs, DTI is actually also involved in issuing or releasing the IATF-ID so that the workers could go to work or pass in the checkpoints. But there's a transition between from the IATF ID use to the rapid pass. So these are actually complementary passes. Both the ID and the rapid pass are considered complementary. So if you have the IATF ID, you can pass through checkpoints, but you cannot pass through the rapid lanes. So rapid lanes are allowed with rapid passes. So that's how it was implemented. So sometimes there is a varying interpretation at the checkpoints whether to require which ID. Is it actually the IATF ID that needs to be shown by the worker, or is it the rapid pass? So right now it's being solved and addressed at the checkpoints. So the next slide is the part 2 of my presentation. These are now the DTI interventions so that we can resolve all issues in this pandemic. When the president proclaimed on March 8, proclamation number 922, it declared the state of national public health emergency to the COVID-19 pandemic. So another one on March 16, there's a proclamation also that was released by the president, number 929, that placed Luzon, whole of Luzon, in enhanced community quarantine. So there is, of course, there are some issues that were being experienced. One, there's a surge in food demand. There's you have observed also that there is panic buying because of this lockdown that people heard. Because of the high demand, there is also a low level of raw materials and supplies, and also because of high rise in buying, there's a limited supply now of processed food. And there are also delays in the delivery and shipments because there are, during that time, there is no clear guidelines yet for those that will bring food to the consumer. And since workers are not allowed to go to work, there's a temporary cessation of food manufacturing operations. So next is on March 18, the DTI, the DA, and the DOH has a joint Memorandum Circular 2020-001 that provides for the price freeze under the state of calamity. So this is being implemented until now. And also on March 19, DTI issued its Memorandum Circular 20-06 to ensure that cargoes for food and other basic essential products like medicines, vitamins, medical products, hygiene products are all unhampered in the checkpoints. During this period also, DA issued its own MC06 and 07 for the implementation of food lanes to ease transport of fresh produce and farm inputs and supplies. So another issuance by the DTI is the Memorandum Circular 20-07 for the hoarding and panic buying. On March 20, there's also an issuance by DTI of a Memorandum Circular 2020-08 to ensure unhampered transit and movement of personnel of manufacturing establishments that are allowed to operate in Luzon. So this is the reason why we evaluated companies and issued them with the IATF IDs so that they can operate from 50% capacity utilization up to 80% for food and up to 100% for essential hygiene products. So there are 3 groups in DTI that issued and evaluated the IDs. There is a manufacturing, retailing group, and the logistics groups. So on March 25, this is the effectivity of RA 11469, or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. So there's an issuance among DTI, DOF of a joint memorandum circular 2020-02 on April 1. This authorizes the DTI and DOF to grant incentives to manufacturers, to suppliers of raw materials, to suppliers of manufacturers and suppliers of packaging materials, including suppliers of the raw materials for these packaging products in view of the COVID pandemic. These are based on the need of the Filipinos of medical supplies, the vitamins, so the PPEs for our frontliners. So we allow some manufacturers to repurpose. Some of those, for example, are garment manufacturers, textile, that are not very active. They were active now, producing now the face mask, producing the PPEs that are important and needed by the people, especially our frontliners. So we have in the DTI and BOI our program on repurposing of the manufacturing sector. This is based on this joint memorandum circular. For the next chronology of events, so now there's a transition now for the rapid pass, so that there's an ease in the movement of products. So there's an issuance also among DA, DTI, DOF, BOC, and PPA of Joint Administrative Order 20-01 to expedite the processes for the release of refrigerated containers and dry vans during the ECQ. And at this time also on April 7, we did not accept any more applications for IATF IDs because there's already a rapid pass implementation, which is easier. Now, based on the submissions of applications that DTI received, we have received more than 10,000 more than 10,000 enterprises applied for the IATF IDs so that they can go to work. And the DTI and its bureaus and agencies have already issued more than 630,000 IDs for these workers. So for the next slide, now the President on April 30 issued EO 112. This covers now the business operations, the guidelines on which business operations should be allowed in areas under enhanced community quarantine and those under the general community quarantine. We also issued, together with DOLE, an interim guidelines on the workplace prevention and control of COVID. There's a minimum health standard that should be followed by the companies in their workplace. And on May 5, the DTI also issued its Memorandum Circular 20-22 to provide a clarification and guidelines on business activities that are allowed and those that are not allowed to operate in areas under ECQ and GCQ based on the provision of EO 112. This also served as our guide for DTI and BOI and its other bureaus in auditing the rapid passes that were issued by the DICT. So there may be some companies that applied for the rapid pass that need not be in the street, or these are not authorized people to be outside their residences. This is just a summary of how many IDs or individuals that were given by the DTI of the IDs. For example, for manufacturing establishments, there are more than 2,000 companies that applied for the ID, and there are individuals or workers that were given the IDs at around 152,000, more than 152,000 IDs. Also similar to retail, logistics, to delivery services, those that will deliver the essential goods, those that will open operations of restaurants or fast food for delivery purposes. They were given also IDs. The groceries, the supermarkets were also given IDs. The logistics companies, the trucks, the freight forwarders were given also the ID. So a total of 10,000, more than 10,000 companies and more than 634,000 IDs were issued by the DTI. Now, on April 8 also, the IATF created the task group on food security, which is being headed by DA Secretary Dar. And as members, they have DTI, NEDA, DOE, DILG, DSW, DDBM, DOE, DENR, NIA, and other relevant agencies. So under this task group on food security, there was created on May 7 a sub-task group on food security and logistics, being chaired now by DTI and co-chaired or vice-chaired by NEDA. So the objective of the group is to look now into the issues and resolve issues on supply, the whole supply chain of food. Not only on the issues on logistics, on delivery or distribution of food, but on strengthening the linkage of the fresh food producers to food manufacturers. So this is really a very good collaboration venue between agencies that handle food like DA, NEDA, and also we want also to strengthen delivery or delivery of this product. So we want here in this group, the OTR and the ILG. Just to show you how also DTI collaborates with DA, Secretary Dar mentioned about Kadiwa, and DTI has a program courtesy of the DTI Consumer Protection Group. They have the Descuento Caravan, so they help collaborate with DA to bring their products, agri-products to the consumers through this Descuento Caravan. So they have around 400 Descuento caravans conducted already and participated by more than 1,000 retailers. They have already served more than 1,000 barangays and more than 80,000 households in 14 regions, and generated a total sales of 58.29 million pesos. And of course, the prices are lower because these are based on Kadiwa prices. For the next, now also we have a facilitation group within our BOI, because even if we issue IDs, even if we issue resolutions, we wouldn't know how these resolutions would be implemented at the ground. So we have a group within BOI that handles issues, concerns, and queries, resolution of issues, concerns, and queries, and also help in fast-tracking the issuance of the IDs. They also join the task force for COVID Shield at the ground, helping or collaborating with PNP. If there are issues from the manufacturers, we bring them to this group, and this group also brings it to the interagency on task force that handles the issues. So these are our frontline services that will that helps investors also and manufacturers on their issues concerning implementation of guidelines under the 19. Another slide would show how we were being appreciated by these companies that we have helped. For example, we have helped electronics companies in releasing their importations. We have helped also food manufacturers, Universal Robina, Mondenissen, when they have problems in releasing their goods. We have also helped Philex Mining. For this is an export company. They encounter problem in their importation of the product. So these are some of the things that DTI, BOI do to help the consumer, to help the government in easing out these problems of COVID-19. So okay, so that is my last slide. So thank you very much for the time.
Okay, thank you very much, Direct Rax. And it's certainly good and refreshing to know that the DTI is also very much active and on top of the situation. Meron ako isang curious point doon, Director, before we go to the Q&A proper. Sabi nyo, yung pinakita nyo yung demand and supply ng mga essential but processed food products. Hindi, yung buffer, yung surplus natin, hindi masyadong, medyo manipis yan.
Manipis po. Manipis.
Yung bang mataas na demand, is that also brought about or is it an artificial increase because of the situation? Kasi alam ko for a fact, LGUs, for example, are having a difficulty purchasing processed food for distribution. Is that now or is that the normal level?
Actually, it's somewhat artificial because we have interviewed a manufacturer. They said that their sales increased by 29%. Only for this month of COVID. So it looks like an artificial because the product is very much in demand now. So yeah, so they are experiencing increase in sales by as much as 29%. That's very big. However, they also encounter issues or problems in the supply of the raw materials. Yeah.
Sure.
Importation of the raw materials. Yeah.
Of course, of course. Pero maganda nga, at least sinabi nyo, merong mga sektor na masaya sa pangyayari, tumataas yung kanilang sales. So that's good news, at least for some people in our society. Umpisa ko muna, bago tayo magbukas ng dahil madami na tayong questions dito. We've been flooded by a lot of questions, both on Facebook as well as on Zoom. But the first thing is, one single impact that has been caused by this pandemic. Ano yung pinakamalaking problema ang hinaharap natin from the standpoint of, nandiyan na ba Secretary Dar or somebody from Department of Agriculture joining us back?
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Assistant Secretary Noel Reyes.
All right. Assistant Asec Reyes, yeah. Barbie Atienza po, kasama natin si Director Rax at dito po sa ating PMAP webinar. Isa pong factor na pinakamalaking hamon, biggest challenge that you're facing now from the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Trade Industry as caused directly by this COVID-19 pandemic. Ano po yun?
Sa amin, more on the production side and movement. Okay?
Okay.
Movement of products, kasi kita niya, na-highlight itong production nung may surplus na nga, hindi na-harvest, nabubulok. At kung nabubulok, mali pa ang timing at tinatambak, nakakahiya, di po ba? You've seen
kasi
that.
Limited yung transport, yung ability to transport. I see.
And then, mahigpit pa sa checkpoints. Kaya ang importante, the Secretary sought the approval of IATF that food, non-food cargoes should go unhampered. No? Yung fluid ang delivery. So again,
there was
the other factor is that yung nalilimit yung movement ng mga farmers and fishers dahil di ba may limit sa edad, matatanda na yung farmers natin eh. So again, willing and able naman sila, physically strong, and then they can still do their chores. So again, may ganon, may restriction sa kanya-kanyang, alam mo na, sa mga barangays, sa town halls, mga ganyan. So again, we have to assure them that they can still work, number one, and then number two, the movement. They can harvest, they can and move their products to markets.
Asek, sigit ko na yun dahil napag-usapan natin yung edad ng mga agricultural workers. No? Dati naging problema natin, alam ko, wala na mga bata na gusto mag-farming. Is that something that's being resolved, being addressed? At saka yung tinutulak ni Senator Bongo ngayon na balik probinsya. Ano ba
Yeah.
epekto niyan?
Malaki din na epekto, but yung, again, unahin ko muna yung aging farmer, yung population ng farmers natin. No? That's why we crafted the program to attract younger generation, millennials, sa ating agriculture sector. So we're offering a program, Maya, meaning mentoring, attracting the youth in agriculture. So meron ka iba't na financial assistance. In fact, we're offering them $500,000 pesos just for the idea itself. Parang ano sa US, no? Okay. And then yung mga outstanding graduates ng SUCs, agriculture, we will be hiring them OJT here at the DA for 6 months, and they'll receive market rates salaries, and then they'll be assigned 3 of them per district, no? To assist our agriculture production provincial coordinating office. So meron po silang, they'll serve as change agents, intermediaries. Okay?
So meron talagang deliberate move towards that direction. Okay, balikan natin, punta naman natin yung food supply, particularly sa mga urban areas, and we're talking about manufactured goods and all. Director Raquel, the biggest single problem that you suddenly faced with this pandemic? Nakapatay yata yung mic ni Director Raquel.
Okay. Sorry
There
about
you go.
Oo. In terms do po doon sa aming department, or doon sa food yung kanina pong present ko yun sa manufacturers, of course, ang immediate na nakikita natin problema ay increase in cost of production. Kasi, so, kasi kailangan nilang magdagdag ng cost because of the new normal. So, kailangan nilang comply with the minimum health standards that is being required right now. They need to secure their employees, their workers, that they are not infected by the virus. So they need to invest on that also. So although this could be temporary, kasi ano naman yan maaayos naman yan in the long term pagka maganda na yung takbo ng mga planta.
Magle-level. Mahanap natin yung tamang level ng pricing and all.
Yes, sir. So nakikita natin, maaring may mga products na mawawala at meron namang bagong like yung mga, yun nga, sabi ko kanina, yung paggawa ng face masks, ang dami talagang matutulungan nitong mga bagong emerging products na lumabas ngayon. Yung paggawa ng alcohol, yung dating gumagawa ng alak, pwede nang gumawa ng alcohol ngayon, di ba? So, ito yung repurposing. So, in effect, merong mawawala at meron din namang bagong mabubuhay na industriya. So, yun ang nakikita namin.
We see a good future pa rin din. Medyo, may room naman for optimism tayo. We'd like to thank people joining us, both PMAPers and non-PMAPers, joining us both on Facebook as well as on Zoom. Jessica Santos is here, Elisa Claire Loreno, and of course, past President Grace Abella. Mga question po rito, unang-una para po sa DA. Uy, naging babae si Asek Noel. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. Help us with the questions here for the Department of Agriculture. Sabi po ni Jessica Cantos, may we request the Department of Agriculture to put in their website real-time province, municipality, barangay, the extent of RCEP implementation. Pwede po daw ba yun?
Can you say that again po? I'm sorry, I didn't get the exact question.
Actually, it's more of a request than a question. If we can put down real-time of a province, municipality, barangay level of the extent of the RCEP implementation.
In terms of real-time reporting, we still have to consolidate it kasi at the ground level, so at the regional office level. And that is, well, apologies, no, pero it takes a while to consolidate from all the regions considering the challenges. But I think we are updated. It's just that we cannot give a real time
All right.
dates. Yes, yes.
Okay. May we know your name, ma'am?
Yes. Good afternoon. I am the Chief of Staff of Dr. William Dar and the Undersecretary Ching Caballero.
All right, Yusek Caballero. Good afternoon po. At sabi po dito ni Sylvia Paraguya, also for the Department of for Secretary Dar. Nakalito kasi no, Secretary Dar DAR, pero hindi siya hindi siya agrarian reform. Dapat doon siya. Where are the cooperatives? Ano po ang role ng cooperatives in the food security framework?
That's a good question. We take cognizance on the collective action, ano po, and the cognizance of the fact that our farmers are smallholders. We look at the strength of organizations to bring them together and collectively engage in the agricultural production activities. So to answer that, cooperatives are very important because this acts as a social enterprise or a business enterprise that will represent the collective effort of the individual farmers, so they can scale up, they can access institutional markets, and avail of programs that will make them more sustainable and scalable.
Okay. Next question coming from Romel Ancheta. Siguro both from the DA standpoint and the DTI standpoint, the next 12 to 18 months until a vaccine is discovered, are we going to be assured of basic food supply? Or do we have to start growing vegetable gardens in our backyard, self-sufficiency? What is your plan?
We have launched the urban agriculture program, which actually encourages urban households to have their own backyard gardening, so that just to make sure that they have immediate access to say kamatis, vegetables that can be
Basic food.
Yes, basic that can be easily grown. Because unlike in the provinces, you can just go back to at your backyard to pick some of the vegetables that can that may have been grown by you kasi may advantage tayo ng lupa. But in the
Pero
case
Yusek, malaking difference ng question siguro doon ni Romel is it something that we necessarily have to have, or is it something that's good to have, nice to have?
Well, it's nice to have, because if you're just staying idle in your house and given ECQ, at least sa akin nga, during the first weeks of the ECQ, matataas na yung petchay ngayon. So, you can see how small vegetables can be grown and how it can sustain you. Pang bulalo pa yan, pagdagdag mo sa, but
pero ibig sabihin, kahit wala yun, hindi kami magugutom.
Yes, oo. I was raised in a province wherein we have our own backyard. You grow vegetables.
Sure.
So it's something natural to you, But when you're in an urban area, maliit ang lugar, pero namimigay din naman kami ng buto na nasa plastic, You can
right.
grow your own. You
Okay.
can grow your own kamatis. But in terms of food sufficiency, of course, we have to work with production clusters, rebooting, as the secretary would say, to look at production in a more efficient way. This is where we can now come in terms of adoption of appropriate technologies, mechanization, and the likes.
Food supply out of agriculture, DTI Director Raquel, 12 to 18 months. How are going to be? What's the picture going to be like?
Actually, we have programs also of linking farmers to our manufacturers. However, we lack data also how much does each farmer produce, so that we can bring them or promote them to the manufacturers. So we actually, this good time also that there's a sub task force that was created to address food security and logistics, wherein we want to look at the whole supply chain. We also promote investments for urban agriculture, wherein these are being partnered with LGUs so that the small families or households could also be helped in terms of food production, because there's one investor that we have helped, is helping actually right now, that based on their production, they can actually support many families. These are vertical farmers, so they need land also wherein they can put up their equipment or machinery for producing this farm produce. We have also a program on inclusive business, like we have major companies partnering with small farmers. For example, we have Jollibee being partnered with the producer of chicken, so that there's a sufficient supply of chicken for Jollibee. So those are some things that we help and we promote investments for, so that we can entice investors for these kinds of projects.
So next 18 months we'll be okay. Is that what we're saying?
We're working
course,
on that, yes.
And there's partnership and linkages between Department of Agriculture and Department of Trade and Industry
Yes,
for
yes,
food security,
yes.
right? And we'd like to thank Rasoland Navarro, Richie Sugitan. Kanina nakita ko si Nani Jeronimo way from Davao. He was asking, sabi niya, what about programs natin? Are we always parang maraming concentration put into rice production? Unang-una, are the rice farmers resilient enough? Or are there programs to make them more resilient? The other thing is, how do we move towards developing further yung mga value crops, mga cash crops? Yusek, Cheryl?
Yeah, primarily rice is a basic staple. So we have to make sure that we can produce the needed requirement to feed the population. And so rice is among the priority, but that does not mean we only have to produce palay. Kasi ang thinking ng DA ngayon, farmers should go beyond palay production. They have to be engaged in the value chain, and so their access to rice processing centers through cooperatives has to be established. This is what the secretary is now working on, to come up with inclusive business models wherein the DA has invested on in cooperation or in partnership with local government units and mature cooperatives that has the scale and access to financing as well. So the DA will orchestrate and steer the linkage to sustainable rice production in a more efficient and profitable way.
Yusek, yung elusive dream of rice self-sufficiency, is it still part of the agenda? Is it attainable?
Yeah, it has become very challenging because, as you know, when the secretary came in to the picture, madaming mga challenges, and now we are expecting again an El Nino. So that being said, though, that elusive dream is still reachable, provided that we have the necessary support systems. We have, I think, around 1 million hectares pa that can be irrigated. So what is necessary really is to make our production efficiency higher, more efficient, kasi diba, we have fragmented farming systems. So if that can be addressed, considering that we have an 84% or 86% rice sufficiency now, the additional 8.5 billion that was provided for under the SAP, the Bayanihan Hill as One Act, is expected to add another 7% of the sufficiency level. So the balance will be sourced out from imports.
Okay,
So,
okay. All right.
Yeah, but
Pero,
we're going there. We're getting there. And the
Oo.
secretary has really been presenting this case in a scalable manner using science, no, and
That makes sense.
clusters
Yeah.
to achieve these efficiencies at the ground level.
Yeah, but it does really make a lot of sense. I mean, as long as Filipinos use rice as a staple food,
Yeah.
it's always good to have that as a target, as a dream, di ba?
Yeah.
You cannot abandon that.
Yeah.
Oo. Patricia Tolentino asks of DTI, help us understand, is the area of fresh goods like vegetables, yung mga agri-products, vegetables, fruits, rice, poultry, in the scope of DTI? Kaya daw niya tinanong yan, they have the impression na ang priority ninyo is manufacturing of electronics and mining, na hindi masyado binibigyan ng prioridad ang food processing at manufacturing. Direct, Raquel, would you like to react to that?
Yeah, actually, yung fresh food production, it's the DA's turf.
Sa turf
Dito
nila yan.
ay processed food po kami, manufacturing, like yung sardinas, yan, manufacturing, mga canning of fish, meat, yung processing.
Pag-process na.
Process na sa amin. So, ang inputs namin are the agri-products.
There you go. Okay. So, yung sinasabi natin, Patricia, doon natin i-address yun, yung mga vegetables, fruits, rice, talagang agriculture yan. Yung DTI doon sa mga processed. Yung mga sardinas. Usong ano ngayon eh. Sikat na sikat ngayon yung sardinas eh. Maria Rosalia Abaya, how can we avail of the programs in DA, especially on urban gardening and the program on financing related to farming? Do we have such programs and how can we avail of it? Yusek Cheryl? Yan, nawawala yung audio yata ni Yus. There you go.
Yeah. On urban gardening, they can request it officially. They can have they can email us and identify where they are located at, or if they are working with the local government unit, they can work through their barangays. Kasi ang tinitignan natin is, like in Quezon City, we have Barangay Holy Spirit. We have by barangay para madaling i-cluster. Yeah, in terms naman of loans, they can go and check the website of the Agriculture and Credit Policy Council, ACPC. So they can avail of zero interest loan payable in 5 years. So meron po itong pang-individual at meron din itong pang-enterprise level.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Babalikan natin yung I'm reading these questions at random, so medyo may palaktaw-laktaw, pero babalikan natin yung isa. Particularly kasi kay Sylvia Paraguya, where are the cooperatives in the food security framework? How can we find them? How can we apply for them? How can we join them, I guess?
The cooperatives, basically, they can check on with the Cooperative Development Authority because they have the list of accredited and cooperatives that are in good standing. So just for the information of everyone, cooperatives can have 3 levels, no? The first level is a primary cooperative, which is basically can be area-based, or they are connected on certain, business venture. The second level is a secondary cooperative. This is clusters of primary cooperatives that can go outside a province or even on a regional basis. The third level is a tertiary cooperative, which is actually a federation of cooperatives. So in terms of scale and scope, they are investors within the federation. And so the scalability and the what they call that yung financial maturity is more established. So kung sila po ay nag-uumpisa pa lang na pumasok ng cooperative, they can maybe join an existing MPC or multi-purpose cooperative to to get the vibe, no, and to understand what ventures are they into.
Okay, all right. Romel Ancheta, selected employers will resume work at 50% of their capacity. How do we expect them to have food to eat in their respective offices? and observing physical distancing rules, are the food restaurant and fast food, will they have enough supply of raw materials? Raw materials for food, for restaurants, I don't know, DA will have enough supplies, right?
Yeah, in terms of the needs of restaurants, it really depends on what market are they catering to. Because if you're, working on a fast food, and then the need would be different, no? But if you're working on a specialty store, magiging iba din yan. But just the same, the Department of Agriculture has its trading posts wherein farmers can bring their produce in the trading post. Some examples could be yung nasa Benguet agricultural food terminal, wherein you have a bigger facility where farmers can bring in their produce, tapos they can do their sorting already. In Nueva Vizcaya, we also have one which wherein the volume of trade reaches around 450,000 metric tons per day. So may mga ganon tayong trading post, and the DA is moving forward also in providing the food terminals. So we can also have storage facilities for perishable products.
And hopefully that will be sufficient enough. Kasi ang punto rito is we're slowly going back to the new normal, so to speak. Pero yun nga, magkakaroon ng higher demands, and are we ready to supply that demand? Kunyari, restaurants nga, we have agriculture. Sabi ni Yusek Cheryl, the goods are gonna be there. What about processed food? A lot of these restaurants do use a lot of processed foods. Director Raquel, kamusta sitwasyon?
Actually, nagiging full operational na ang mga food manufacturers. They are now allowed to produce, to operate at full. So kung sino man yung mga manufacturers right now existing, they can all go back to full operation. So depende na rin talaga if there are available raw materials to process. So yeah.
Eh, huwag kayo masyadong kakain, masyadong madami. Para sufisyente pagkain, hati-hati lang. Di ba? What can our people, we people outside the government, what can we do to help with the food security situation? What would be your advice na maybe we can do our part as well? Who'd like to start? DTI or DA? DTI? Direct Raquel? Ano
Yes, sir.
pwede namin gawin?
Yung nasabi mo na nga, sir, huwag kakain ng marami. Siguro,
Huwag magpa-panic buying.
yes, we need not buy more than that we require or we will use, di ba? So, mahirap, lagi tayo nag-i-stock. After the end of the day, nakikita natin, hindi naman natin nagagamit. So, siguro we have to really shift also our mindset. Paltan na natin yung ating pagpapanic buying. Anyway, lahat naman tayo dapat kumain. So, pabayaan natin na makabili rin naman yung iba. Diba? Yung ganon. And then, of course, let's practice yung less wastage of food. Kasi yun din ang nakikita natin na nagiging aksaya tayo kasi like Filipinos talaga. So nakita natin because of the limited food supply now, kaya pa naman natin mag-survive with a little, di ba? Kung ano lang yung nabili natin, and in fact many of us have not been allowed to go out, di ba? So kung ano lang yung ibinigay ng barangay, kaya naman natin masustain. So siguro let's think it over kung paano natin ma-change yung ating lifestyle. So kaya naman kaya naman.
Well, do your part, ladies and gentlemen. Yusek Cheryl?
Yeah, first of all, we have to ensure that we eat healthy and nutritious food. So let's not waste rice, because rice is, even if we produce it, it can be scarce if we don't take care of those resources. Number two is to also engage if they are planning to go back to the province or grow their own food, to engage in innovative family enterprise development models. So IFED, may mga ganyan po tayong mga package of technologies na pwede nilang tignan, pasukin, at consider it as part of their food production, household consumption, and which can also be a good source of business later on.
All right. And maraming salamat po. At what I can get from our two guests this afternoon, Direct Raquel and Yusek Cheryl, in behalf of Secretary William Dar, is that, folks, we just have to be responsible. Take control of our own destiny. As far as food security is concerned, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Trade and Industry, the government itself can only do so much. The success of this and our success on food security for the future always really depends on us. It really lies in our hands. Sabi nga ni John Kerry before, ang very important tong topic na to because sabi ni John Kerry, food drives life. And the struggle for food is a struggle for life. And it is our own struggle. Kaya, talking about food, now I'm hungry. So I'd like to say thank you. And thank you very much, Yusek Cheryl. And please thank the good secretary for us. And maraming salamat, Director Raquel, for joining us. And folks, I hope you picked up a point or two about this food security discussion in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic. And please do tune in and watch out for the offerings, webinar offerings of the People Management Association of the Philippines. In behalf po of PMAP and our President, Loy of Echeverria, and our Executive Director, Mr. Rene Hener, ito po si Barbie Atienza. Ang nagsasabi mo, maraming salamat for joining us this afternoon. And sana po, kapit kamay lang, tulong-tulong lang. Walang maiiwan, walang mag-iiwan. Bayanihan, we heal as one. Good afternoon and God bless. Yun.
People Management Association of the Philippines. Management Association of the Philippines.